Good morning, YouTube. Thank you for tuning in. If you've made it this far, well done. Just kidding. Right. Day in the life of a bodybuilder, a female figure bodybuilder. We're going to go through today how to prepare yourself for a competition prep, because obviously that's where I am at the moment. I am 6 weeks out from that. I think the further you get down in your bodybuilding journey, the less you need to be prepared. But I think because I've done it for such a long time and I've experienced a few different preps and how to prepare myself potentially mentally back when obviously I wasn't as experienced as I am now, I can still remember back then. So I think that it's important to share, guide and help people that are potentially at the start of their journey, not just people that are obviously at a level like what I am, in that I'm going on to my third pro season. Still not done very well though. So if you don't want to listen to me, I don't blame you. No, I'm kidding. So we're going to obviously go through that today. I'm going to eat my breakfast. I am going to show you my meals. They're not really that much different from last time, so I'll probably just talk when I'm having my meal and show you just about things to do with prep. But that's what I'm going to do today. So, meal one, which Kuba is going to go through now.
Muscle building French toast, aka Megalodon's breakfast. As you can see, it's all melted and mounted together. So what you do is you get Tray by JP chocolate pistachio whey paste, which is tremendous, actually tastes unreal. You make that into a paste, so 45 grams of isolate, 40 grams of water. Stir it with a spoon like this. You toast the bread. Pan on low heat. You add the dark chocolate onto the toast, banana on top, put the paste on top, and you can make a sandwich like this. So there you go. Now enjoy breakfast and get massive. One-on-one.
So this is 200 grams of sourdough bread. It is supposed to be 4 whole eggs and 100 grams of blueberries with this, but eggs when you're trying to eat a lot of food, for me, they just get clogged in my throat and I feel like I'm going to vomit all over my table when I eat them. So it's a no from me right now. Probably when I go into prep and I get a little bit hungrier because they're a little bit more volumised, or you can volumise them a little bit, I'll probably go back to... Get down. Come on then. When I go back into... Excuse me. When I go back into prep, I will probably bring eggs back, due to the fact that you can volumise them a little bit more. Oh wow, okay, are you telling them what's going on then, Zines? So today we've got, instead of that, 45 grams of whey, 100 grams of banana, 30 grams of dark chocolate, and then obviously still the bread. And this is Zena. She's very greedy. She tries to pretend that she is coming for a hug and a kiss and a cuddle, but really she wants to eat my food, but she's not allowed, so now she's going to go and eat her own food. This is Caesar. He's a little bit of a dope, aren't you? Hey, but he's a mummy's boy and he's my little shadow, and he comes everywhere I go, aren't you? Hey, but his dad takes him walking because he's a little bit too big for me sometimes, especially when I'm in prep. I feel like my arm's going to go off. Isn't it? Yes. Right, I'm going to eat. It is good though. Hope you're okay. Thank you for sending this over. I think that you look great. I think that you look a lot leaner this morning even compared to yesterday morning. Especially if we look at that glute tie-in. That's just really shaping up and is really, really, really beautiful at the moment. So, after meal one, what I like to do is crack on with some meal prep. We do meal prep in bulk-ish. Because we eat so much day to day, we do it in bulk, but it literally just lasts a day and an extra meal the next day. So basically I have to cook every day, which is fine because I have the ability to be able to do that, and because I've done it for such a long time, it doesn't take me forever to do the meal prep. I don't mind doing it every single day. So that's what I'm about to do now. So my routine literally stays the same year round. If I didn't, I wouldn't be able to get all my client work done. My clients wouldn't get a good service from me. I would probably feel stressed, which would then affect my own bodybuilding, which will obviously then limit my chance of progression and success when it comes to my own bodybuilding. So staying locked in for me is an absolute necessity. Everybody's at different points in their journeys. So obviously someone may not potentially stay locked in totally in their off season for whatever reason that may be. Obviously over time you'll probably find that it's probably important to do that. But if you are someone who doesn't stay locked into your routine in off season, before you start a competition prep, to prepare yourself for a competition prep, I think it's really important in the last kind of 4 weeks or so that you make sure that you're nailing down on making sure that your routine is set and in place, so that when you hit prep time that you can hit the ground running straight away. Again, I'll reiterate, if you can stay locked in all year, you will optimize your journey much more, and that's true for anything. The better you are at one thing to do with your journey, the better outcome is going to be. So if you can stay locked in all year, excellent. If you've not got to that point yet where you feel that you can, that's all right, but just make sure that you get yourself transitioned into that point where you're ready to switch it on for prep. Because if you find that your routine is in a really bad place, you'll find it really hard to be chasing your tail all the time in prep, especially when foods get lower and you get a little bit less energetic, and you'll just find that prep's just going to be an absolute chore. So just making mine and Kuba's potatoes. Kuba likes his peeled. I like mine with a bit of texture and a little bit of a crunch. So I like to keep my skins on. We always get Mary's Piper potatoes because the skin's not that thick anyway. It becomes a little bit flaky. What I'll do with these is I'll boil them, I'll then dry them, season them, put them in the air fryer. It takes 10 minutes and then they're good to go. Right, so another little tool when it comes to competition prep and transitioning from the off season, you don't need to change your food sources. I'll have people that will start getting coached by me and that will say, I don't like eggs, but I know in a competition prep I'm gonna have to have egg whites. And I'm like, well, no, if you don't like egg whites, there's definitely lots of other different sources of kind of lean proteins that you can use instead. So you don't have to utilize it, no. As long as in your off season you're still sticking to good whole foods, you don't need to change anything. It's just the transition over from competition prep to off season needs to be very simple. The only thing that needs to happen is probably to begin with, you'll see potentially a tiny little bit of an increase in your expenditure, which is either through some extra steps or a little bit of potential cardio that might get added in from the beginning, and I mean a little, not a lot, and then a transfer down with calories. And that's the only thing that needs to change when you go from off season to a prep, and it's literally just that simple. Obviously if you're an assisted bodybuilder, things may get ramped up a little bit at the start of a prep with an assistance cycle, but again, slow, steady titrations, making sure that you've given yourself or your coach has given you enough time in order to get lean, will allow you to be able to make steady changes, adjust things when things start to slow down, whether that be pushing hard or whether that be taking a step back. But foods wise, nothing needs to change. Literally stick to good whole foods in your off season and you'll be good to go at the start of a competition prep just by tapering those foods down slowly. Hello, good morning Kim, hope you're okay. Thanks for sending me a check-in. You look great, really happy. I'm glad that you're really happy as well, especially with getting much leaner. Glutes look great, quads look awesome, midsection looks nice and tight, starting to see some separation between delts and tricep and bicep. We're obviously at a point at the moment where we do need to take a little bit of a reset with your recovery. Meal 2, which is 450 grams of potatoes chipped in the air fryer, 125 grams of lean minced beef, some peas, and I actually put on here some reduced 25% gravy. I don't like sauce. It's got very good macros. I only use a teaspoon, so it's actually very small in regards to the additional calories. I think it's like 15 calories for like the amount that I put in. which is not a lot, especially at this point in an off season. Will that go when I transition into comp prep? Yes, definitely, because little things like that just aren't worth having the additional calories in prep, because what's the point? You want your base foods, you want to see that your body's moving from your base foods so that obviously you can make the progress that you want to. So that will be one thing that goes as soon as I start prep, and it's only 15 calories, but obviously it'll probably help move things. Even mentally, it'll probably just make me think, oh yeah, I'm definitely in prep now. So that's definitely something that's going to change. But I'm going to eat that alongside 100 grams of pineapple before we then get stuck into some more work. Preparing yourself for a competition prep. If you are someone who's done bodybuilding for a very long time, the transition over doesn't really feel like anything at all. For me personally, I do like the countdown to prep and then the countdown to show day, but for me each and every day feels very much the same. I think that with that becomes a sense of calm. There's kind of a little bit less pressure, there's a little bit less kind of overwhelm when it comes to transitioning from one to the other, and I think it's something that lots of people could probably learn from, because for me personally it's just about sometimes I'm having more foods, sometimes I'm having less foods, sometimes I'm doing more steps, sometimes I'm doing less steps, and that's pretty much the really minute, small, gradual changes over time that do happen that determine whether I'm in a surplus grey muscle or whether I'm in a deficit where I'm obviously aiming to drop as much fat and retain as much muscle as possible. When it comes to that transition over, if you've created for your off season to be nice and structured and the way in which an off season should be, still obviously hitting good amounts of calories each and every day, adhering to your food plan, doing your training, sticking to your nice routine, still having an element of balance, yeah, and enjoying some real good downtime and social time with friends, family, having the energy to be able to do that, etc. Even in a comp prep, like until your last couple of weeks, you can probably still do the things that you need to do, especially if you're a family person. But if you've kind of created for your off season to be that way, that transition into prep will almost feel like nothing. It will just feel like it's just another day, but just a change in direction, because you've gone from having more calories to having a little bit less calories. If anything, if you've done an off season properly, you probably wait for that day to come because you're so full. Whereas if you're someone that's newer to the sport and you are still finding your feet with things, you've potentially not yet cracked that off season very well, you've not yet been able to adhere 100% in your off season just yet, you're kind of still looking for that balance. I guess that transition from off season to competition prep can feel a little bit daunting, can feel a little bit overwhelmed, but there's so many different things that you can get in order, making sure that the last couple of weeks you're making sure that your diet's locked in, making sure that you're utilising the food sources that you are going to be utilising in competition prep, making sure that you are getting your adherence with your routine back into a really great place. All these different things which in my opinion you should be doing all the time anyway as a good bodybuilder, because competition prep's really hard and people can try and sugarcoat it, and I think that lots of people try to do it and potentially don't do it that well. It's almost become more of a fad to do one, and everybody probably thinks it's not as easy to do one as it is, if that makes sense. But it's really hard. It takes a lot out of you if you do get lean, like competition lean. It's very difficult at that point. Not that it's difficult to the point where you'd moan about it, because if you're someone that moans about it, then you should just not do it. But it is difficult. There's, I guess, sacrifice, you could call it, that you have got to not have off-plan meals, maybe even missing meals for kind of families' birthdays and things like that. Doesn't mean that you can't go, but just means that you can't eat the foods. Like, there's so much that comes into it that is very different to running a normal life, that if you're not prepared for that and you don't want to do that, like, just don't do it, because there's no point in putting yourself and potentially suffering for no reason other than the fact that you think that you must do it, because there's no necessity for any person to do it, and there should be no obligation or pressure for someone to go through a competition prep. But if you really want to do it and you really want to do one and you want to do really well with it, you need to make sure that you're getting yourself set up for it in an off season. I mean, I talk about the fact that you can get yourself prepared for it if you're not someone that's running with a structured off season. But I think if you do bodybuilding, you live and breathe it. I mean, people probably think, oh, why do they talk about balance and this and that? But if you do it and you do it well and you're doing it for the right reasons, especially either a competition prep or an off season, you won't really feel that it's sacrifice. You won't really feel like you're having to have balance here. It's just something that you do. And like for me and Kuba, it's just something that we do. It's, my family doesn't question it so much anymore. Kuba's family doesn't anymore. They just, it is what it is. And we are what we are. And if people don't like that, people don't like that. If people want to be part of that, excellent. If people do not, then fair enough. But bodybuilding's not for everybody. If you don't feel like it's something that you really do enjoy, don't do it. If it is something that you do enjoy, do it. Competition prep is hard. Don't moan about it if you've chosen to do it, and really make sure that you mentally are prepared, because it's difficult. Food focus is high, expenditure is high, you'll feel like death after you compete, and you get that energy but the hunger is still there, and you kind of fight not to eat the foods that you probably want to, just to make sure that obviously you don't turn into a big buffalo afterwards. But if you really want to do it and do it well, you'll make sure it happens. Pre-workout meal. Kuba's condensed his meals down to 5, just because for him, with him being so big at the moment, he needs a lot of sleep to be able to recover. That sounds pathetic, maybe potentially for a normal person, but in order to grow and get big, you need to really focus on your sleep and your rest. For me personally, the amount of hours, so like 8 hours, 8.5 hours that we have in bed is more than enough for me. I'm good to go. Unless I feel like ill or whatnot, then I'd probably not really have much of a nap. So I've got here 125 grams of rice, a little bit of vegetables, and by a little I mean very small. I think that you can see one green thing here. I promise that there is a little bit in there. But I don't like to eat too much fibre around my, well, too much fibre from veg around my training session, because otherwise I feel a little bit bloated. You don't want that when you're training. And then 125 grams worth of chicken. These bits are Kuba's, not mine. And then I also have 100 grams of pineapple, because pineapple is lovely and fresh. When people tell me that they don't like pineapple, I just think, how? Like, that freshness that you get to your mouth is just phenomenal, especially after a big heavy carb meal. I mean, I think right now I'm eating more rice than what probably me, my brother and my mum and dad would eat in one sitting when we were younger. Well, maybe not quite. We were all a bit chubby. So gonna eat that. Gonna go to the gym. I'm kind of getting ahead of myself here. I'm going to talk to you in a little bit about my actual pre-workout drink, so just ignore me. We are going to go to the gym, but I'm getting ahead of myself. One thing that you need to make sure you have on point before you start prep, and in an off season, but we're going to talk about prep here, is your meal timings. If you work shifts, night shifts, day shifts, mix of shifts, etc., you've got kids, you can't eat your meal at like 10 o'clock and it needs to be 11 o'clock, it doesn't matter. As long as you've got a little gap between them and you give yourself enough time in your day to be able to eat them all, and you have the 5-6 amount of meals, whatever it is that works better for you, make sure that your meal spacing, we'll not even call it meal times, meal spacing is on point. If you're kind of having 2 meals really close together, then a couple of meals really far apart, that's one way to really knock your food focus when you're in prep, and it will make you go absolutely bonkers. So make sure that they're kind of every 2 hours. If that means that you want to fast in the morning because you want to have more food in the evening, fine. But just make sure that your meal spacing, we'll not even call it meal timings, is on point, because it will really help when you're on prep to keep your food focus to a minimum, because your meals are just there. I've not drank it yet because it gives you blue teeth, and I don't want to have blue teeth when I'm talking. Pre-workout, actual pre-pumpage workout. Here we have 20 grams of the pumpage, the blue slush flavour from Trained by JP Nutrition, alongside 5 grams of creatine and glutamine, all mixed in here, ready for some intra-workout fullness. But if you want to get some wonderful pumps during your session, get on Trained by JP Nutrition and use code MEG10, not code 10. So I'm going to drink that now. I've actually not drank it just yet because it gives me a blue tongue. So I thought I'd let you listen to my mouth with it not being extra blue, and have it then. Anyway, we're going to go to the gym. We're training push. You're not going to see that session. That will be in a different video. I've not trained or filmed push for a really long time, so hopefully I'm a bit stronger than the last time you saw it. There's probably different movements, or at least different order of movements in there. So yeah, looking forward to taking you along. So make sure that you watch it whenever it comes out. Post-workout meal, just train push. It was a really great session. Obviously you can check that out on my other video that I'm going to post, which is my push day. So here we have the bowl of goodness, which is 150 grams worth of raspberries, 100 grams of cream of rice, 25 grams of cocoa pops, 40 grams of whey. The cream of rice and the whey are obviously from Trained by JP Nutrition. We've got the cookies and cream, cream of rice, and I think that this is the vanilla whey. Yeah, it's the vanilla whey. I either mix it between that and the chocolate pistachio because they're both my favourites. So, one of the last things that you need to focus on when it comes to your transition over to prep from off-season is your training. Be prepared, especially if you are a first timer, that your training is going to feel really difficult. That doesn't mean that you have to get weak. That doesn't mean that your sessions have to be terrible. It just means that they are going to be a little bit more difficult because you've obviously got a lot less foods, you're a lot leaner, you've got a lot less energy, but what has built your tissue is going to keep your tissue. So trying to keep your performance good, even if you dip a little bit in strength, that is okay. But the longer you can keep your performance in a really great place, the better your look is going to be on stage. And I can definitely account for that. Does it matter whether you're a natural or you're assisted? I think if your prep is managed well, so obviously you are structured with your off-season prior, you obviously transition into prep where you're not having to go all the cardio, low food straight away. You can retain performance and you can create for your muscle mass to hold on tight, even when you're a natural competitor. So that's one of the last things that you have to remember when you do transition over from off-season to prep. The performance is going to be a little bit different. You need to try and make sure that you're caring for your recovery away from training to make sure that your performance can stay as good as possible, and so that your body is not needing to deload all the time, that you're not completely battered, that obviously you can still keep things moving in the way that you need to. So I hope that that all helped. That's kind of my day in the life-ish. Foods up to the point of post-workout. You've seen my last two meals so many times before that you don't need to see them. I can't see foods changing too much leading into prep because we need to make sure that my body composition stays in a good spot, that my kind of performance stays in a good spot. Not that it's not about building mass right now, but it's about making sure that this body composition holds leading into competition prep, because it's going to allow for me to transition into prep in a really smooth manner, meaning that hopefully, no, probably, they'll end in my physique looking the best that it ever has. I mean, I can't see why putting in the work for 12 months wouldn't result in that. How that fares is up to the judges, but I'm very happy with the physique improvements that have happened. Maybe one day I'll show you it, but not right now. Still a little bit too jiggly at the moment. Anyway, please like, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff. Thank you for watching and hopefully see you again soon.